Hello and welcome to our final CatSci podcast of 2020. This episode, we welcome cat professional Tabitha Kucera. Tabitha is the owner of Chirps and Chatter Cat and Dog Behavior Consulting in Cleveland, Ohio. She is a certified cat behavior consultant through the International Association of Behavior Consultants, a Karen Pryor Academy certified training partner, and an elite fear-free and low-stress handling certified registered veterinary technician. She is also a trainer mentor for Jackson Galaxy's project Cat Positive, the co-chair of Pet Professional Guild's Feline Committee, the vice president of the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants, and a board member of the Together Initiative for Ohio Community Cats. Tori and I are extremely excited to have Tabitha here as a guest. Stick around to learn more about Tabitha and how to create a fear-free and fun environment for your cat. Welcome, Tabitha, to the CatSci podcast. So, have you had cats your whole life, and how many do you currently have?
Thank you so much for having me. And of course, I have had cats my whole life. I grew up in the house where there were a lot of stray animals because I lived in a low-income area, so they were everywhere. And I would bring a cat home or a dog. We had turtles, we had bunnies, and my mom would be like, we'll make it work because she's amazing. So I grew up with all kinds of animals, but definitely many cats, including my lovely community cats that live their best lives outdoors while we had our indoor kitties. And I currently have 5 cats: Chip, Malt, Cupcake, Norman Squeakers. He was a foster fail. Chip, Cupcake, Malt, Norman Squeakers. Why am I zoning out? Oh my gosh, I'm a bad person.
Don't let your cats hear this right now.
I know who the favorites are.
I have them all tattooed on me. That helps. I have pandemic brain right now, like everyone else. But they're all senior cats. We got them when they were younger, and it's lovely having a home full of senior kitties and extra special considerations and stuff. They've taught me a lot.
Sure, I bet. Well, I love the names, by the way. I'm all about the food name. Well, I'm all about the silly names for the cats. Peach and I guess Violet's not super silly, but.
You know, I love human names too. It's just Jelly Bean has 3 legs, so she looks like a bean. Maul is a Siamese that eats a lot, so she looks like there's reasons. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, all of our cats are named after food. It wasn't purposely. Obviously, I like sugar. It's cool.
Sure. Well, I love Norman Squeakers too, because that's just prime.
So, from having these cats, was this kind of why you started to want to work with cats, or what was kind of the backstory with how you got started in this?
So I grew up with lots of animals, loving animals, like many of us. And then in high school, I was an angsty goth kid. And the last thing I wanted to do was go to college, teach their own. And I was like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'll go to school for journalism to write about going to concerts and things like that. And then I got older, as we all do. And at 20, I was like, this isn't for me. And then I was like, what else can I do? And I was already volunteering and working with shelters at that point. And I was like, and I met a registered veterinary technician, because these are things that a lot of us don't know about. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this for a living. This is amazing. I love science. I love animals, and I can help them in all kinds of ways. So I became a registered veterinary technician, and I loved cats and dogs. I love both now, but my special interest in cats came because working in shelters and veterinary hospitals, I started to meet a lot of cats and have them euthanized on the same day. Not to get dark, but it wasn't because their caregivers weren't amazing. It was just, I realized some patterns. Like by the time the client was recognizing the cat was ill, this cat has been sick for months. So the most humane thing to do was to euthanize them. And then I also noticed that dogs are misunderstood, but whoa, are cats misunderstood, especially with the vet and the shelter world. And in many cases, these things could be prevented or easily managed or addressed. And in many cases, clients would be relinquishing their cats. In many cases, they just open their door, which is why we all have cats that come to us. When you're like, where'd you get your cat? Which makes me sad. Like, that's sad that we could literally open our door and find a cat. That's not ideal. So then I was like, okay, I want to help my clients stop this. And then I started going down the path of behavior, which is like my favorite thing now. And medicine is behavior, because if cats have chronic stress, they're more inclined to have medical issues. All of these beautiful things that come together. And then I would start to look for resources to share with my clients and shelters. And I'm like, whoa, I'm a vet tech and I have access to a lot more things than the general public does. And I can't find I would not share any of these resources with other people. So then I was like, okay, this is starting to make sense. Again, I don't think people are malicious. I generally think people are amazing. They're just a lot of the times not aware of their cat being sick, or your cat isn't urinating out of the box due to spite, even though all those fun memes on Facebook tell you they are. So then I was like, okay, I need to learn more about feline behavior. I need to make more resources. And then I kind of learned all I could through various certifications and things like that. And it's become a big part of my life now. And I do what I can to create as many resources and educate people, because it makes such a big difference. And people want it. They're begging, as you guys probably know, with this beautiful podcast, they're begging for information on cats. And even people who are looking for valid information, whether you're a shelter worker or a vet tech, it is hard to find accurate, up-to-date, science-based information on cat care, cat behavior. And if I miss like a few months of continuing education, I'm like, I'm behind. Whoa, we learned this new thing about cats' inflammatory response, or because again, they're awesome, amazing, interesting creatures. So that was a long answer, but that's kind of what led me to my path to cats. And I used to hate my name, which is hilarious. And I'm like, it was meant to be, Tabitha. Yes.
Can you talk a little more what you mean by low stress and the fear-free handling? What exactly is entailed with that?
So if I had to briefly describe it, so low stress handling is an initiative that was created by the late Dr. Sophia Yin, who unfortunately isn't with us anymore. And fear-free is something that came more recently, but both of them are very similar in their context. But basically, as veterinary professionals and shelter professionals, we've been really good at addressing what's physically wrong. Okay, your nails are too long, we will cut them. You're vomiting, let's do a workup, let's get blood work, let's get you feeling better. But addressing the emotional well-being, I'll be honest, we haven't been there, and this is the same in human medicine, we're getting better. We haven't been great at it. So with low stress handling and fear-free, it's all about addressing both the physical and emotional well-being of the animals. And basically, hey, what can I do in the environment to decrease stress? I'm going to handle the cat in a way that this individual cat is doing well with. I'm not going to use one restraint to restrain every single animal, because we all know they're individuals. But in tech school, I'm taught one restraint for both species, and neither of those restraints I do anymore. But again, with fear-free and low-stress handling, we're given tools and things to create an environment that's less stressful. We also learn body language and how animals learn. So for example, I'm going to talk to the client about traveling and teaching them to go in the carrier and how to happily accept car travel, because most cats are over threshold or fearful as heck by the time they get to the vet clinic. So I've had a lot of success with cats who've been fired from clinics, or clients who've had a lot of understandably stress when it comes to the vet, which is why cats aren't seen at the vet as much, which is also a whole nother concern of mine. But it's because people don't like to see their cat stress. So we talk about carrier trading, traveling in the car, and then there's specific things that we can do, because even though stress exists, there's a lot we can do to control the environment to make it less stressful. And then like learning different handling techniques and working with that individual cat versus like black and white, every animal. We're going to do the same motions, which is kind of what I was taught in technician school. I wasn't really taught, like, let's think of handling as a skill, which it so much is. And I wish as a field, we thought of handling more as a skill. Phlebotomy, surgery, all of these things, like, we get better. Ideally, you're using different anesthesia drugs than you were 10 years ago. You know, so, but with handling, most of us are being taught the same things we were taught when we didn't think animals felt pain, which is, when you think about it, it's kind of, whoa.
Yeah.
It's when you break it down like that, I'm like, whoa, I was taught the same techniques we taught people when we didn't think cats felt pain. But then I'm like, okay, now I know why cats don't like handling. Now I know, again, what's the function, what's the background, what's the learning history. Most cats' interactions with handling isn't great.
Sure.
Yeah.
But thankfully, with fear-free and low stress, we addressed both the emotional and physical well-being through a variety of things. Gentle control, like, so working with the individual animal in front of me, setting up the environment. Like, for example, I'm going to have a cat go right into a room versus hanging out in the lobby where there's a bunch of weird stimuli, dogs checking them out, things that are understandably, if a dog checks the cat out, that cat is now in a state of fear. And now I'm going to bring you into a room and do all this other crazy stuff to you. Versus, hey, I'm going to just bring you in the room and throw a feel away towel over to lessen stimuli. Because when animals are fearful, just like humans, stimuli is intense. Everything is heightened. Which is why if you vaccinate a fearful animal, you're like, they were fine. A poke is pretty intense. Everything is heightened when an animal is fearful. So that was a long answer, but that's kind of a brief description of fear-free and low stress. It just helps us, gives us those tools to understand handling and decrease the stress for our patients and in the ways we can.
Sure. So is there I think that's a great answer. And it blows my mind that still the same handling as before we even knew they felt pain. That's insane. What? But was there a pivotal moment or a cat that kind of sold you on fear-free or low stress? Or was it researching and through Dr. Sophia Yin and that sort of deal that you started getting into it?
So I think all of us as animal professionals, we don't do it for the money. We, even though we deserve a livable pay, but that's a whole other thing. Most of us do this because all of us do this because we genuinely love animals and want to improve the lives of the animal and the caregivers, because that's really important. So seeing cats fearful and stressed, or this label of fractious, is hard for us. And that was something that was really hard for me, but I didn't have the tools. Like, I didn't know what else to do, you know? So when I happened to see Dr. Sophia and speak, I'm so thankful for that experience, prior to her passing. And I think this was 7 or 8, 10 years ago. It was a while ago. And I remember her talking about just body language and a little bit about low stress handling. And I'm like, what? And it like blew my, because even though some people are like, Tabitha, you handled that, you got blood work without really touching the cat, or you're not scruffing cats. And I understand that's a very new concept for a lot of us, and even back then it was for me, but my mind is always open to learning new things. And I remember being like, this is amazing. And then I kind of jumped full in. So there's a low stress handling certification. I worked towards it because honestly, 10 years ago, there wasn't, and still there aren't really a lot of resources. I joke that feline friendly, fear free, and low stress, the fact that there's only 3 organizations that really focus on this, I think there should be a lot more, because handling is a big part of all of our lives, whether you're a cat caregiver or a cat vet tech, whatever it may be. So I saw her speak. It blew my mind. I was like, it doesn't have to horribly suck for them. We do have, because a lot of people are like, vets and shelters are just stressful guys. And I'm like, actually, they are. But again, then I realized there's all these things that I have control of that can significantly lower stress. So I started practicing low stress, because this was before there were other professionals in my area that I could talk to. Like when I did the low stress handling certification, unfortunately it was all online, but I couldn't like have people critique my handling, because it's a lot more than throwing a towel over a cat. Because a lot of people are like, the towel didn't work. And I'm like, that's like saying the clicker didn't work when you were like, click, 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 it's a remote control, and you're not using the tool correctly. It's a tool. So I learned on stuffed animals, Dr. Ian had a lot of videos at that point, and I would just practice over and over again. And then I would start practicing on more well-adjusted or happier cats at the vet. And now again, it takes time. Now all I work with is animals that have been fired from their vet clinic, or animals that ideally I would love to be hired before that. But now all I work with is the most fearful of the fearful. And that's, I think, something too, none of us are great at everything, which is why teams are so great. And I think, again, handling is a skill. And I'll talk to a client and I say, I love your veterinarian, but handling fearful animals is a skill. So we're gonna work on creating a handling plan with your veterinarian. And if they aren't comfortable with that, I totally understand. But I'm going to have you go to this veterinarian because your veterinarian's great. It's just handling fearful animals is a skill. You need to be able to come up with a handling plan, be comfortable and not fearful, because a lot of veterinary professionals are afraid of cats. It's something that I'm not surprised about, but I'm very open and I try to be supportive and non-judgmental. And a lot of shelter and veterinary professionals over the years, whether I'm tabling or speaking, have opened up to me and said they're afraid of cats. But I understand we were taught one restraint that elevates fear and stress. So from their learning history is, I did what I was told and the cat tried to bite me. So I understand that, but also from the cat's perspective, we basically set them up to be guilty before proven innocent. Because what I was taught to do is don't assess the cat, pull the cat out of the carrier, which is super dangerous from my perspective, but also for the cat, instead of taking the carrier apart, and to scruff the cat. And if they move, which is a normal human thing, I mean, animals and a human thing. I always joke, animals aren't statues. So I used to be told to hold the animals still a lot. And I think that's why I get a little like flitchy when cause I'm like, guys, animals aren't statues. They're supposed to breathe and like move and stuff. But literally what I was taught was you grab them, and if they move, you hold tighter. And then we're like, the cat bit us out of nowhere, which again is seldom ever the case. Usually they're indicating, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop. We just don't identify those. And then again, like the cat is the bad guy. The cat get labeled as aggressive, even though if one of you came and threatened me, not that you ever would, if you pushed me, I would say stop. If you pushed me harder, I would say, I would get louder. And if you push me again, I would physically resort to aggression. That's an appropriate behavior. They wouldn't then say Tabitha's aggressive. But this is what happens with cats all the time. You put them in context where they should be biting you. And then they're labeled, and we don't look at, okay, what was the context? What was happening? What was going on? When they were fearful, we held them down tighter. That's like, if I was at the nurse getting blood drawn, I get a little nervous with the doc. Who doesn't, right? With the doctor, and I was sitting in the chair, and then 2 arm straps came up. I would go from green to red instantly and start screaming and biting. I would bite because I don't have access to my hands.
Honestly, that exact experience is why I have desensitized myself to it, and it's better now. But I was afraid of needles from a majority of my life because. And ironically, I think the doctor's name was Dr. Dick. Like his last name was Dick. So it's even funnier. But I was like a tiny little kid getting like shots, and they physically held me down and gave me multiple injections. And from then on, I was like, nope. And I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You know, I can empathize with the cats who maybe they were fine at the vet at one point, and then, you know, the more restraint and the more fear that is associated with, you know, going there and having things done, you know, it amps them up each time. Peach was great at the vet until she was a year, and after her, you know, after some health issues, she now is petrified, and we've had to kind of go back and work on it again. So, you know, it's not always just a static thing either. It's something to continually work on.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as a veterinary technician, I want to do everything in my power to decrease stress and make the interactions with the animals I work with more positive and pleasant. And I think all of us do, but I think, like, again, like myself, I had to go and learn those tools myself. We weren't taught those. So I think that's where I think everyone, once they start to see, because a lot of people hear what I'm saying and they don't believe me, and then they see videos and then they're like, oh.
Something I kind of keep hearing you say is so much of this is based off our behavior as people and not the cat's behavior. And even though a lot of people are blaming the cat for being angry or butthole or any number, spiteful, any of these things, it's like, well, it comes down to we've made the cat feel this way. And even just things as simple as leaving the house and going to the vet is just an extremely stressful thing for cats, especially because typically that's the only time they leave the home. So we've never given them these other experiences outside of the home to show, hey, sometimes it can be okay leaving the home. Sometimes it can be okay going to the vet. Sometimes we get treats at the vet. So it's all just about changing our behavior and kind of reimagining how we're dealing with these animals in more of a communicative way, I think.
No, that's beautiful. That's exactly what it is. Because half of, like, considerate approach, for example, I can't tell you with cats and dogs. Understandably, if I first met one of you and grabbed your butts and poked your necks, you would be like, Tabitha's horrible. Where's HR? Never inviting her back to this conference. But with cats, we don't, that's like not considered approach for humans. And with cats, we tend to, like I said, we don't assess. We might peek in and start talking to the cat, which is terrifying. And then we just reach, and then we physically manipulate them in an unnatural position. So I was taught to physically scruff the cat and then stretch them on their side. And again, now that I have more information, I want to understand the why, but I can't. I can't, because I do a lot of things with cats just sitting naturally how they want. So usually sternals, like just sitting up. But I still have access to their whole body. So I'm not really sure what the stretching, I don't know if we're like, we have to hold them tighter. So again, we go in saying, we have to hold you down tight. And then we're like, why does the cat hate me? Mm-hmm. So I definitely agree. I think being quiet and calm, being aware of the cat's body language, being aware of my body language, all of that makes a big, like if you go in and you're fearful of the cat, which I'm not judging, that means we should get someone else that's more experienced. Like, again, I work with really fearful animals. It is a skill. So I work with dogs who have a history of fear aggression and cats. So, I'm going to be very aware of my movements. There's going to be management in place to keep everyone safe. But if you aren't skilled in that, which is something that took me a long time, and I'm a dog trainer and a lot of other certifications that I've gotten, you're setting yourself up for failure, which is why I think a lot of these vet techs and shelter staff, they're like, just hold the cat. And they feel embarrassed, or we've been conditioned in our field to not ask questions and lots of concerning things. But to me, if you're uncomfortable, you should say something, because how are you supposed to get, like, I may be uncomfortable with something and I'm going to vocalize that, because if that person holds that cat, the cat is going to just be it's not going to go well for either party. And both parties are going to have severe trauma for the rest of their lives. So human behavior is very important in all this, for sure.
Yeah, and even just thinking, we know at least pet cats can socially reference their owners. So if their owner's upset or scared of something versus happy about something, the cats are looking to them in these situations. And it's not a stretch to think they're also looking to the vet. If the vet or the vet tech is feeling very nervous and very afraid, they could be kind of connecting to that, and it could be heightening that fear in them as well. So it's always so important to be watching your own behavior and how that's affecting the cat and also the owner, the other people around you. Because if you're supposed to be the person in charge in that situation and you don't feel like you're in charge, that's kind of saying something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that's another thing with fear-free and low stress. Not only am I working with the patient, but I'm describing to the client what the animal is exhibiting. So in a big picture, I can help prevent serious things from happening in the future. Because some people might see, like, let's say you are holding a cat and you're doing the routine cold metal table, grab the cat out, scruffing and stretching. The cat is vocalizing and obviously uncomfortable, squiggling, and then the vet kind of giggles it off because they're uncomfortable, right? They're conflicted and they don't know what to do, so they just keep doing the same thing because that's what they know to do. That's what they've been taught. And then by the vet laughing that off, where I know this is I'm a big picture person. We're kind of normalizing severe fear, which to me is like, whoa. So when that mom sees that cat doing that with a kid, it's fine. Mm-hmm. And then when that kid gets bitten by that cat, which was an appropriate behavior, kid's traumatized for life, kitten is euthanized. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm a big picture person. So I think when it comes to the cat or dog aren't standing still, I'm gonna hold them tighter. We're teaching that client the dog and cat's not doing what you want, physically manipulate them to do what you want, which is that's a whole nother podcast. But in a way, that's what we're teaching, because like you said, they trust their vet, they trust their vet tech or the shelter professional they're working with, because we're the people at that. Just like with my mechanic, guys, I know nothing about cars. I trust him to tell me what I'm doing is right and what to do. That's what we are. So I do take my position very seriously. And I think when I'm working with a cat, I'm explaining to the client everything I'm doing and why. Or I explained it because, again, I work with those really fearful. We've talked about it prior. So I address all their concerns and talk about the why and touch on, you're not a horrible cat owner. Because so many people, again, even vet techs and vets, they're like, it's something I'm doing. There's a lot of compassion fatigue and issues. So let's talk about what the cat's doing, why the cat's doing it. And then I have a lot of clients say things like, the cat didn't even try to bite you. And I'm like, that's because I was doing this and this. But their background is the cat always tries to bite people, and it's because of the cat, not because of what was going on to the cat.
So what are some organizations in Northeast Ohio that are doing great cat-related work? And what are some of your favorite nationally?
That's a good question. The one organization I work with that I really love, they do cat and dog stuff. They're called Neighborhood Pets. And basically, over 60% of the population in Cleveland lives below the poverty level. And access to affordable pet care and resources are basically slim to none. That whole statement where people say things like, if you're poor, you shouldn't have animals, that's something I feel very strongly against. So that's an organization that has been doing really great stuff by providing food pantries, vaccine clinics. I do a lot of behavior consulting work with them. And these clients love their cats so much, but they've literally never had anyone reach out. They just say, I'm going to take your cat. No one goes to them and says, how can I help you and your cat? Because guys, we have enough cats. Our goal should be keeping animals and in their homes with their lovely owners. So Neighborhood Pets is an organization I really like. And then Rescue Village is a shelter that does cats and dogs in Geauga County. And I recently worked with them with the Cat Positive program. So they have done an amazing job. They've kind of rebuilt their facility, and they really considered cats' needs when they did that. So there's hiding places, it's well ventilated. It's a beautiful facility, and they really talk about and focus on not just the physical well-being, because again, water, food is important, but so is enrichment and giving cats opportunities to be cats. And that's somewhere where we need to definitely improve on in the shelter world, in all the worlds. So Rescue Village has been great, because the Cat Positive program, by the way, is just a program that I work with where we teach shelters how to read body language, how to prevent and maybe manage some behavioral issues that are common, and clicker train cats. So they've been a blast to work with. And then some of my favorite organizations nationally for cats, one is in the UK. But they're so amazing. They're my favorite. International Cat Care is one of my all-time favorite organizations because again, to agree with the majority of any organization is a lot, right? And Cat Care is an organization that is science-based. They're very up-to-date. They describe things in a way that, you know, a cat behavior professional can understand, but also the general public, which I think is really important. And they have so many great resources for free. And then I also really love Community Cats podcast, which is another podcast internet thing that provides lots of different resources. She interviews lots of different people, whether it's, hey, I've been doing fostering for this long. She's interviewed me. So you get to hear a lot of different perspectives, which I think is really important, and ways to help. And she provides a lot of free resources. So those are some of my favorite organizations. And then Fear Free, of course, has Fear Free Shelters and Fear Free Happy Homes, which are free for shelter professionals. And if you're like, hey, I have cats and I want to learn about their body language or their enrichment or just look up something, Fear Free Happy Homes has a lot of really great free, easy to digest resources where you're like, I want to learn about cat enrichment. Let me check this out. So I love those organizations too.
So Tabitha, when I heard you speak, you had a lot of videos of you working with cats in these fear-free handling ways. And I think you kind of mentioned earlier how people don't really believe what you can do until they see the video of you doing it. And that was kind of my experience as well. Like, oh my gosh, she's giving this cat a vaccination without even holding it down. Like the cat's just licking some treats off of a mat or something. So, what kind of medical procedures can you do with cats using some of these techniques that you've learned?
That's a great question. So honestly, all procedures from sedating a really fearful kitty, there's minimal restraint, low stress ways to do that, to drawing blood, to giving a vaccine, to giving sub-Q fluids, to giving medications. So my cats are actually trained to go to a place and happily take their meds. And that's something I'm really passionate about because I think we talk about cooperative care with dogs. Thankfully, that's getting more popular. And what that means is basically having the dog play a part in their care. But with cats, unfortunately, poor cats, I tend not to hear about this as much. And like you said in the videos, a lot of cats do really great as long, again, I set the environment up to be less stressful. They're carrier trained. We go right into the room. So the cats, when they arrive, are already like, all right, I'm not horribly stressed because I haven't been exposed to a bunch of scary things, which tends to happen without kind of helping the client get there. And then we could use play, like with kittens, I use play a lot. Hey, you play with this toy because again, I don't want to sit still and I'm 36. A kitten doesn't either. So when the only thing we know is hold them still, and then they fight, and then we hold them harder. Again, we tend to see this escalation of behavior, which we expect, versus you're chilling. I'm going to lure you out of your cat carrier with some snacks that you really like, and then we're going to play, and then I'm going to do considered approach, like approach the cat from the side instead of full force, like on the front. I'm going to touch the area first, vaccinate, touch the area again. Kitten's still playing. Kitten got vaccine. And the cool thing is, once you learn these skills and know them well, it actually takes a heck of a lot less time. Because a lot of people are like, it takes more time. Learning a new skill takes more time. I always tell vets, how long was your first spay surgery in vet school? Most of them say, which is appropriate, 1 to 4 hours. Now I ask them, they're like, how long is it now? 15 minutes. But again, handling is that way too. So once you're familiar with all of these techniques, you can learn to use them. And then like the same thing isn't going to work for every cat. So I'm going to be watching that cat's body language. Oh, this toy, she's watching it, but she's not really focused. Her ears aren't moving forward. Let's try this toy. Oh, cool. And it took me 2 seconds. Or she doesn't like the treat on the licky mat. Let me put it on a popsicle stick or ice cream cone. And also, if you give a cat a treat on an ice cream cone, the client will remember you forever. If you spell the the cat's name out in cheese. I know clients, from a veterinary standpoint, we should be remembered for all the amazing things we do. And you guys are all amazing. And I thank you for everything you're doing right now. But a lot of the times the clients don't remember those things. So not only are these techniques better for you, better for the cat, because the cat's less stressed out. So diagnostics are more accurate. You can get your diagnostics easier. The client's happier and will bring the cat to the vet because the cat's overall less stressed. But they're going to be like, dude, she spelled my cat's name. Like, that's an Instagram post.
Absolutely.
And that, again, it's important. And clients really, like the clients that I work with, they really, they remember me. Mm-hmm. The one clinic I worked at, I was requested as a tech. They didn't care which vet they got. They wanted to work with me. And that was very eye-opening for the owner of the practice. And again, everyone's motivations are different, just like animals. And I realized, oh, this is one of his motivators. So then I'm like, fear-free makes more money. Like, because it does. I'm not making it up. Clients are more likely to come more often. Clients are more compliant. Clients can get the meds in their cats. Like, it's just this beautiful thing. But you can use these techniques with everything. And even if you're a cat caregiver, when it comes to nail trims at home, you can utilize these techniques too. Instead of, hey, I'm going to wrap my cat in a towel, which I love towels, but again, it's a skill, towel handling. And in many cases, we go right to restraint versus, what if I just like give him some cheese spread, like squeeze cheese spread thin on a plate or a licky mat, approach him from the side, touch his shoulder, go down, cut one nail and end. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Yeah. That was easy. But instead, what we think first thing is hold the cat, forcefully restrain the cat. And I think that we need to kind of change our overall view of like, the first thing we shouldn't be thinking, grab the cat and hold him still, which is what a lot of us think. We kind of need to change that narrative in our heads. Let's work with the cat in front of us. Less is more. This is what that means. Let's try it. And you'd be surprised. I've cut cats' nails in their homes where cats used to have to be sedated. And all I did was, I'm not magic. I would love to be. But I just utilized all of these techniques and worked with their individual cat, going at a pace that cat was comfortable with. And these cats who usually need to be sedated for nail trims, I cut their nails in one visit. And then we talk to the client about steps forward, because I don't expect them to be as skilled as me. So we break it down and talk to the client about how you can successfully set up your cat for success, because your cat lives with you. You can spend 1 minute to 2 minutes training something. It's fun. Training is fun.
And that's so interesting. You talk about once you have these techniques under your belt that they actually take less time, because I think that's why so many people just default to grab the cat, put it down. It's going to save us time if we just force it to do it and clip its nails all at once without thinking about what the impact on the cat's behavior is going to be overall. But then when you sit down and think about it, like, well, then you have to try to clip a struggling cat's nails, which is going to take forever, instead of, like you said, giving them a treat, doing one nail, the next time maybe doing 2 nails, and just, sure, when you're first learning, it's going to take some time to develop that skill, but it will definitely be worth it. So I guess that kind of brings me to my next question. What are your recommendations for people who are looking not only to work with cats, but animals in general? Like some of the things that you didn't know starting out that maybe you kind of want to share with people?
I am a huge fan of volunteering. Obviously, due to the pandemic, we're in a little bit of a different place, but that's okay. We adapt. That's what we do. So there's still a lot of great things you could do. And it could be something, because a lot of people are like, I want to start training cats, or they'll meet me and they'll be like, I want to be a behavior consultant, which I love, or I want to be a vet tech. I love that, but let's break it down. First off, you might not, most of my job is people contacting me saying they want to euthanize their cats because they're so over thresholds. They're not bad clients or bad caregivers. And you have to be really, really good with people. So being a behavior consultant isn't easy, but that doesn't mean you learning more about cats is going to make the world better. So I always say, if there is a rescue that you like, even if it's not interacting with the cats firsthand, could you just kind of observe and shadow somebody? I think that's a big part. Recognizing that you don't know everything, because if you think you know everything, you know nothing. I don't know everything, and I'm always learning. And I think that honestly, that's what makes me I'm being confident right now, but I think that's partially why I'm so great at my job and great at talking to other people about what I do, because I'm always learning from lots of different people. So surround yourself with a variety of different professionals. Ask people. Like when I first started, I reached out to other people and I said, hey, can you help me with this? What do you recommend? And they might not reply because, to be fair, I get a lot of messages. We all do. So it's not malicious. Or I've had a bunch of people reply, and I, for example, have a few books that I tell people to start with. They're like, I want to learn more about cats. I'm like, I love that. Read The Trainable Cat by Sarah Ellis and John Bradshaw. Read anything by John Bradshaw. And a bunch of other books that I recommend. And then if they contact me again, I'm like, here's some textbooks. Let's nerd out. But I'm not going to start by saying, read this freaking 1,000-page textbook. So I think whether it's doing webinars, listening to podcasts like this, gathering information from things that are more fact-based. So trying, not that blogs and things aren't helpful, but just be aware of where you're getting this is in regards to the whole world. Be aware of where you're getting your information from. Find a registered veterinary technician or someone that works at a shelter, someone that you're like, I really want to do that. They are more than happy to mentor you. I love mentoring people. It's kind of my favorite thing. Because I know, I'll be honest, Kristen, I didn't really have a lot of mentors throughout my process, and it still really affects me, and which is probably why I try to go out of my way to mentor people, because I think being supportive and helping people learn more is such a big part of what we do, and so many people shut down, and that can be really discouraging. So don't get discouraged. Stay positive. Reach out to other people that are doing what you do. Ask if you could shadow. Ask, what books do you love? What resources, I love that you guys asked that as part of your interview. What resources do you really like? Just start gathering information. There's so many free conferences and webinars right now. Oh my gosh, due to COVID, which is a bummer, but use this time. Like, I'm going to take Friday and I'm going to drink at night. And then in the morning, I'm going to learn all about cat stuff. Mm-hmm. Finding the right people, surrounding yourself with fact-based information, finding some good resources to start, and then you'll kind of just go from there, honestly, because all three of us have very different paths. They're all correct paths, but a lot of it was just putting ourselves out there, trying to gather and obtain more information, and then sticking around to the people that, like, I met Kristen and I was like, oh my God, you're awesome. I love everything you do. I want to be your friend. I sound weird.
That's pretty much what happened here too.
So I mean, that's kind of like corny advice, but never stop learning. Always put yourself out there. Don't get discouraged, because trust me, especially with cat stuff, when I first started my kindergarten classes, no one came. When I first started talking about, hey, let's not scruff cats. Let's talk about instead, let's do this. It wasn't as welcomed. Just like, hey, let's talk about alternatives to declawing. But we all have to start somewhere. So be non-judgmental and kind and offer education, and you could change minds. So don't get discouraged.
Can you remind us where you're online and what your handles are for social media?
My website is chirpsandchatter.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Chirps and Chatter. I know I need to get hit more with the social media, but you guys, Facebook and Instagram is a lot already. Oh, and I recently started a YouTube channel where I've just been putting up a few lectures. The lecture that me and Kristen did on kitten socialization is on there for free. I'm trying to create a lot more free resources, and I'm working on videos, but whoa, does it take time to make videos. So if anyone wants to help, let me know. I am open. If you are really good at taking video, want to help this girl out, I'm down. Email me.
Well, it's been a great pleasure, Tabitha. I'm so happy that you were on this episode, and I'm sure we will see you in future episodes. So thank you again for being here, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for having me.
This episode was brought to you by Mao-Eyes Cat Behavior and Space Cat Academy. Visit us online at maueyes.com and spacecatacademy.com.